Davis, and joining me as always is my close friend, Mr. Justin the Game Slaughter.
Live from the Man Cave, College Basketball Central.
And the young phenom, a new face to the show, Mr. Irv Turner.
Hey guys doing out there? Make sure you come out Tuesday. Support those Page Pirates, take on Eastern Guilford. Easy win.
Last but not least, another big name here on the show. Somebody that goes by many names though. If you work for the federal government, you might call him Tyrell. If you're a close friend, you might call him Ty. But game simply around here, we refer to him as DJ Amp.
Hey everybody, I'm DJ Amp. If you see me at the Sheetz gas station, don't hesitate to give me some money for my gas.
First things first, I'm the realest. Drop this and let the whole world feel it. And I'm still in the murder business. I can hold you down like I'm giving lessons in physics. Right. You want a bad boy like this? Drop it low and pick it up just like this. Yeah. Cover Ace, cover Goose, cover Chris. High heels, with the air, taking risks.
Did a lot, just to live this here lifestyle. Came straight from the bottom to the top, my lifestyle.
Yellow beats, holla at me.
And chewing some hot. Like that rotation, I see when I like you see the twirl and he drops it. And we keep them.
Alright, Brian, coming back to you, man.
And Monte keep it on the
Man!
drop.
That's some fire to start the show with today, buddy. Guys, this has been an incredible weekend already. We're sitting here live from the Sports Guys game. Florida State somehow dodged another bullet last night against Boston College. How do these guys continue to pull it out in the end?
They keep dodging bullets every week. But I think their luck might just run out this week.
They got Florida, Herb. Can Florida do what every team has not been able to do all season?
Let me tell you something. Florida State, no worries. Easy win this coming week. No problem. Trust me when I tell you. No problem at all. Winslow, easy. My man Winston, what he does is he finds a way to win. Just like we had Tim Tebow a couple years ago when he came to the reporter and said, don't worry about it. I'm going to take over. We're going to put this team on my back. I'm going to take them to the promised land. And that's what he did. And Winston does the same thing.
Bottom line, though, is that Winston doesn't show up in the first half. For some reason, he goes into halftime. He comes out. He's a totally different player, man. It's like he's Superman.
I think, if I would chime in, I think at that time he may be committing a crime. No, I'm just playing. I just playing.
Well, once again, we're live with the Sports Guys, and this is our college basketball show or whatever.
Go Duke!
So what we're going to like to do right now, folks, is we're going to turn it over to the game, and he's going to run down the top 25.
Go Duke!
All right, we're going to highlight a couple of these teams in the top 25 today. I'm going to start with Kentucky and the pod system.
Boo!
Don't know if it's going to work. They've been struggling against Buffalo, mid-major teams. They have a matchup coming up with Carolina in a couple weeks. You'll see how that pod system works when they actually play somebody with some talent.
You think Carolina has talent?
They got big guys, and they have more than 10 players.
Okay.
You have
More than 10? I'm sorry.
They got 12 McDonald's All-Americans. So, the Harrison twins came back. Collie Stein came back to increase their stock value. Are they going to be happy playing 18 minutes a game? We'll see how the year goes. Who knows? Duke, number 2. Number 1 recruiting class. Does that equal championships? Don't know. Okafor will probably have a great year. They don't have, he's the only legitimate big guy that they have. How will the freshmen perform in big-time games on the road? They have one coming up with Wisconsin in a couple weeks. So how will those freshmen react towards that environment? I'll go to number 4, Wisconsin. Team returning 5 seniors. One of the best big guys in the league right now in Kaminsky. They look good defensively. What will they bring to the table this year?
Gang, let me ask you a question. Out of all those
Yes.
teams right here in the top 5,
Mhm.
Is there any team up there that you feel as though maybe it's overhyped, maybe he's ranked too high?
Oh, you shouldn't answer that. You already know what he's gonna say.
I have something to say about that.
Go ahead,
I
Eric.
feel like North Carolina's ranked way too high because how else are they going to score besides in the paint?
Game, what you think about that?
Well, got North Carolina here. If you look, Kennedy Meeks averaging 16, 7 points a game, 11 rebounds. Not only do they have multiple big guys, they actually have what none of the other teams in the top 4 have. Best point guard in all of the nation this year. What wins championships?
This guy right here.
Point guard play.
Point guard play. I told
Point guard play.
UConn won a championship last year. Why? Because of Shabazz Napier. A senior point guard. Big guys don't always mean you're going to win titles. All right, let's see here. What else we got on the top 25? Wichita State, they don't play anybody. Louisville's a good team. They're 3-0. They're in the ACC this year. Have matchups with Duke, Carolina, and Syracuse this year. So it should be interesting. And they have Montrezl Harrell, who is a preseason All-American. So it should be interesting to see how they do. Kansas, might just want to skip them. They lost by 35 to Kentucky the other day. Virginia, we'll do Virginia. Virginia's an interesting talk. Last year won the ACC, but they had the luxury of a good schedule. They had Duke, Carolina, and Syracuse at home. How will they react this year? They have to play at Duke, at Syracuse, at Louisville, and in Carolina.
Just to ask you a question about the Virginia team.
Yes.
It seems as if it seems like they've been good over the last couple of years. Like they come, back to like 10 years ago. But what are they missing? Is this something? Is it a program or is it?
They always play defense. They are a very good defensive team. Bennett is an excellent defensive coach, but they lack scoring and they lost. What was his name? The two guards, Harris. They lost Joe Harris last year. So be interesting to see where they get scoring from. Let's see here. What's another interesting team?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that I find interesting. There's a lot of ACC teams in the top 25.
Yes.
Is the ACC officially back as the
Yes.
powerhouse conference?
Yeah, you have 4 teams in the top 10. You have a Miami team that's made it into the top 25. So you're looking at 5 to 6 ACC teams that are in the top 10. Florida team, they lost a couple weeks ago. They were in the top 10 originally. Michigan State's another good team. When they played Duke, they only dressed out 8 players, and they had to play 3 redshirt freshmen. So it'll be interesting to see how they end up doing throughout the year. Stanford and UCLA, that's usually a good conference. Georgetown, I don't even know what conference they're playing. What are they playing in now?
I'm not really sure what conference they're in.
I don't even know the name of it anymore.
At the same time, I feel as though Georgetown is one of those teams that in the end they could actually cause a lot of problems for maybe a Duke or a Kentucky because, they play tenacious defense. So we have to keep our eyes on Georgetown.
Big East teams, or the old Big East, always used to play tough basketball. Always did.
Another question for you, Justin. Any predictions based on what you've seen, or any Final Four predictions yet, or is it just too early?
I think it's too early to tell yet. But the one area, and I think I discussed this with you the other day, you take the Kentucky team, they lose somebody, they're fine. You take Okafor away from Duke, they're not going to win a championship. You take Marcus Page away from Carolina, they're not going to win a championship.
Good points, Justin.
And if you take away Kaminsky from Wisconsin, they're not going to win a championship. Kentucky actually has the ability to lose 2 or 3 players from the starting 5 and still win a title.
It sounds like you're putting Kentucky out there. Is that what you're doing?
I'm not. It could be bad and good. I don't know how it's going to do. I want to see how the pod system's going to work out. And we got Notre Dame. That's another ACC team in the top 25. So should be an interesting year. Like I said, a lot of ACC teams in there. So should be a good year.
Hey, that's a good job, Game. Great job.
Great job, Game. Thanks for that. Irv, a lot of big matchups early season. A lot of big matchups. We've already had a couple. Last night, Duke was able to pull out a win against Stanford. It's just all over the map. Just to be honest. As far as I go, the matchup that I'm really looking forward to is going to be this Duke-Wisconsin game here in the next 2 weeks in the Big Ten ACC tournament. Now, you being a Midwest kid, you might differ from that.
I mean, you know what I really think? I think Ohio State playing Louisville next Monday. That's going to be a good turn. That's going to be a good game for the Big Ten and for the ACC. Because if Louisville wins, Now they look good in the ACC, then they can move on and, you know, have more contention to play to beat Duke and beat Carolina. But them playing Carolina, that's an easy game. That's another practice for them. But, you know,
Bears
this
beat
week,
Buffalo.
they struggle with Buffalo.
well, you guys still got to worry. North Carolina fan here, he has to worry about Kentucky. And that's who your biggest problem is with.
Well, gang, with that being said, I know you have that Kentucky UNC game circled on your schedule.
I've got 2 games.
Okay.
I got 2 games that I'm going with. First, the Duke and Wisconsin game. How will those freshmen act up in a? They haven't played in any hostile environments yet. They've all been, you know, pretty easy teams except for maybe who they played, the Temple the other night.
Temple game.
So, I mean, Wisconsin is a good team. They don't turn the ball over, and it's gonna, you know, Kaminsky. You're really gonna see if Okafor can handle a decent big guy. He hasn't had to match up one-on-one with a legitimate big guy yet.
All right. Who else do you have circled?
I have the Kentucky and Carolina game circled.
Now, I'm interested to see, do you think the Tar Heels can beat Kentucky?
They do have a chance.
Why do you say that?
Well, you take the Harrison twins. Some people say best point led the league last year in turnovers. They do have plenty of big guys, but big guys don't always equate to championships. Carolina has the big guys that they can match up with them. They have the outside shooting this year. They got some help from Marcus Page. They added Justin Jackson, Theo Benson.
Hold up right there. Irv, you just combated what Justin said. You think that Carolina has no chance against Kentucky.
Well, let me throw out a couple facts for you guys real
Okay,
quick. You ready
all right.
for this?
I'm
Go ahead, Irv.
Listen.
Whenever you speak, you know I have to listen.
I'm asking to be called the preacher over here because I'm just going to throw out a lot of facts. First off, Kentucky has 10 players that's 6'6" and taller. Then they have 7 players that's 6'8" and taller. Then they have 4 players that's 6'10" and taller. Then you bring in Tyler Ulis as the point guard. Actually was ranked the number 3 point guard coming into college basketball. So you put him, and he's a passing first point guard, but he can also shoot that thing. So at the same time, put him around big guys, it's going to be easy. It's going to be awesome, baby.
First and foremost, Kentucky's averaging about 60-some points a game. For all that firepower, that's sure not a lot of points. And I think coming off the bench, playing 4 minutes, if I'm the number 1 player in the country, I didn't go to Kentucky to play 18 minutes.
Let me ask you this. Can Kentucky run the table? It's been a long time since a team has been undefeated.
Can they run the table? Do I think so? No. But like my man said, they only average about 60 points a game. But what he didn't put out is how many points that everybody else averaged against them. Because Kansas only had 40 points against them, and they had 70. So they still stayed in their bracket of points, but Kansas didn't go to their bracket of points. Because anything in the middle is not going to happen when you got all that height down there.
Okay, Justin. You bring your team into Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. All right. How do you attack
Feed the
Kentucky?
beast. Every time down the court, I'm putting the ball in the paint.
So that's how you're going to attack Kentucky.
If the 7-footers get in foul trouble, they're no good. They're not of any value to your team if they get in foul trouble.
Is that the approach that Roy should take whenever they play Kentucky?
That's what I would do. I mean, plus you got Marcus Page. He could take them off the dribble, but I would make a concerted effort to get the ball in the paint and get those guys.
Let me chime in about this whole Marcus Page character, player.
Okay.
We've all know that player that the year before, when the spotlight's not on you, when everybody's not looking at you, when you get the ball, people want to see what you're going to do. That's the Marcus Page guy. This year, the lights are brighter when everybody's looking at you. And I'm just not sold on the fact that he's coming to, he's going to come in and take over games. I'm just not sold on that.
Well, it's interesting you said that because I did take the leisure of looking up Marcus Page's numbers. And his numbers are down this year.
Right.
But at the same time, he has more talent around him. Therefore, he doesn't have to be dependent on to carry the load like he did last year. But it's yet to be seen.
One question. I got it.
What load did he carry last year? He came in, he showed up in the last 6.5 minutes of the game when everybody's giving up. He just come in and he put up points.
Leading scorer in the ACC.
You know my greatest game in my high school career? We lost by 40 points. That was the greatest game I ever had.
Irv, do me a favor, Irv.
They went farther than Duke.
Since you're neutral in this situation,
Okay.
honestly, is Marcus Page the best point guard in the country? Let's give him his due credit.
Is he the best point guard?
There's a lot of point guards.
Yeah. Is he the best point guard? No. And actually, I think we should dig deeper. Is he a real point guard? Because when you put a zone defense on him, is he just going to keep trying to shoot? Because a real point guard isn't going to try to just keep shooting. He's going to try to find the gaps and get into the gaps. But he's so shooting heavy that he's going to keep shooting and keep shooting. And they don't have name another person when you run his own defense on Kentucky that can, on North Carolina that can actually shoot the ball just as good as him. Because Justin Jackson only shoots mid range, but when you put a 2-3 zone in there, that mid range isn't there.
Well, another game that I have circled on the schedule, and I don't want to give. Hold on a second. We're gonna give you an opportunity to come back to that. But another game I want to highlight. I don't want to show Kentucky too much love, but we also have a big game between Kentucky and Louisville. Big time game this season. Non-conference game. Rick Pitino is a Hall of Fame coach.
Hall of Fame without a shot.
Could Louisville possibly do the inevitable?
I think the fact that Kentucky's bench is so deep that they're so versatile. If Louisville wants to run with them, I think they have enough players, 7-8 players that can actually run to that pace. If they want to slow the game down, they have enough players that can run to that pace. So it's tough to beat them when you have that much firepower. You know what I mean?
They're loaded, man. I mean, as we sit here and we talk, I'm willing to call them the best team. Right? I'll throw them in.
Better than Duke.
And you know how much
They're
it
definitely
hurts
better
me.
than Duke.
Now, it pains me to say this. I think Kentucky's unstoppable.
And I'll throw out one more fact. I was watching the game the other day, and the announcers had one great fact. Kentucky is the biggest team in college basketball, and they're the biggest team in the NBA besides one team.
What was that team? Do you guys know what the team was?
It's probably San Antonio Spurs. But who cares? This is a college basketball show. Another thing I like to touch on, guys, is that there's been a whole lot of coaching moves in the NCAA. Just realized the other night game brought it to my attention that a great player in the Duke tradition, Bobby Hurley, is up at Buffalo.
Doing a great job.
Well, speaking of that Buffalo team, everybody's riding on Kentucky. That Buffalo team was actually up on Kentucky at halftime.
Who won the game?
They did win the game.
Right.
But you're talking about Buffalo.
That's
now
right.
you're not talking about a top 10 team.
But we also know that one of the things that your Dukes and your Carolina and your Kentuckys, one of the problems that they have no scouting on these guys. It's almost like going in blind, like turn off the lights and you guys just start attacking me. It's very similar to that. And that's one of the things that I think hurts the Duke programs and the Carolina when you go into March Madness. We don't know these guys to be playing. Me, myself, personally, I'm not shocked when anybody loses because they're all athletes. And what's the movie, Any Given Sunday? Hell, it could be any given Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Right.
You have to play the game. You have to play the game.
And nobody knew anything about when Carolina went to the Bahamas and they were getting beat out there.
They honestly lost their exhibition.
We're not gonna make this a Carolina bashing party, okay? But one thing I do know, Game, is that whenever you're talking about college basketball, it goes deeper than just who's on the court.
Right.
It also boils down to who's actually pulling players and making the calls, which is the coaches. And we know it's a lot of new coaches in new places, and it's a lot of coaches on the hot seat this year, beginning with Tom Crean of Indiana, the Hoosiers.
Man, we haven't mentioned Indiana name in years, I think.
Yeah.
2 years ago, Tom Crean had Indiana playing some of the best basketball in the country. Now he's on the verge of possibly losing his job. Another name is Anthony Grant, down in Alabama. Anthony Grant earned his fame at VCU as a head coach. Took a big coaching job at Alabama. He's buried in the SEC. I mean, is there any coach out there, Game, that you're looking at and you're like, man, he really needs a big time win?
The Indiana, that I think that's crazy. I mean, he came in and took that team over. And they had I don't even think they had any scholarships. They were on suspension, and he took that team within 2 or 3 years. They were ranked number 1. I mean, so I think that's crazy.
So they did have Jordan Taylor, the point guard. He played very good against Ohio State both games.
But the years they were on probation, they were playing walk-ons. I mean, that's what they were playing. They didn't have any scholarships. Nobody wants to take that coaching job.
That's what I was going to say. If you were to get rid of him, who are you going to bring in?
I mean, it's plenty of coaches out there that are hungry right now that need a job. I mean, Indiana is still a big-time college program, so let's not think that it's not head coaches that would not love, to coach that team. Irv, as far as you're concerned, is there a head coach that you're looking at saying, hey?
I mean, since I'm new to the panel, I'm kind of biased. Not biased, but I'm a neutral guy. So the coach that I actually think he won't be on the hot seat, but he should be, is Coach K.
What? This guy?
Interesting. Why would you say that?
And the reason I say that is because Coach K can't really relate to these young kids that way.
I totally disagree.
This isn't the same team.
Agree.
I totally disagree.
Hold on. I want to hear his argument.
The reason why I say that It's because when you look at the teams that Duke won with, national championships and things of that nature, those teams, they had more juniors and seniors on that team. These kids are going one and done, they're leaving. So by the time that he actually has his time to implement the system, they're not there anymore. You're implementing your system with a bunch of freshmen and 18 and 19-year-olds. So he might run into the Joe Pop type of conversation when you just can't fire that guy.
I totally agree with that, but how can you relate to make a guy stay? I don't get.
Well, we talked about this the other day. I think in the last 4 years, you take Kentucky and Duke teams, both had top recruiting classes.
Right.
Kentucky's won a national championship, went to a championship game.
Right.
In the same 4 years, Duke has lost to Lehigh
Right.
and lost to Mercer.
Right.
Two of the biggest upsets ever in tournament history.
That hurts. I mean,
So
I
I think what he's saying, Calipari knows how to coach the one and dones.
Mm-hmm.
Coach K has recently started recruiting these guys, but I don't know if yet he knows how to coach them. Perfect example, last year, really what lost the game for them was Jabari Parker. He had a horrible game, and that's why they lost to Mercer. So I don't, some coaches are able to coach those one and dones. Now, if Calipari can get those guys to buy into that system, they could probably win a title this year.
And another thing we want to point out is the fact that there's also a lot of head coaches that have taken over new jobs. One being right down the street from us, Danny Manning here at Wake Forest. Wake Forest has a very proud tradition. But as of late, they have really, really looked horrible game. And I'm starting to wonder, can Danny Manning actually turn this team around?
Well, first, they're playing in the best basketball conference. He will have recruiting. He has NBA contacts, so obviously that helps. But Wake Forest is one of the schools that got rid of a decent coach that was making it to the tournament. Once they got rid of him, they hadn't made the tournament since then. They actually had losing records every year the coach had been there. So sometimes, even happened in state, when they let go of Herb Sennett. Herb Sennett was going to the tournament every single year. They got rid of him. They didn't make the tournament anymore.
Check this out. Bruce Pearl, former head coach of Tennessee, had Tennessee playing some of the best ball in the country. Now takes over an Auburn program that's in the basement of the SEC.
Can he turn it around?
Can he turn it around?
I mean, when it comes to coaching, I think the main thing is getting the people to buy into your system. So whatever system that he implements, he has to bring his own people in, because sometimes the people that's already there, they don't fit your style of play. So it may take a little time to get it together, but when you bring your guys into the bunch, that's when it actually becomes, and the soup becomes good. It's not soupy and watery anymore. It becomes a substance.
Well, one thing I know is that if you're going to have a successful program as a head coach, you have to align yourself with a great player. So one of the things I would like to touch on right now is the basis players to watch this year. Okay, we talked about Kentucky. We've talked about the great recruiting class at Duke. I mean, in regards to you, Herb, is there like a particular player that you really, you're following this year? Like, hey, this kid right here is something special.
Well, I have a couple players. I have Terry Rozier from Cleveland, Ohio, Shaker Heights High School. He's down in Louisville right now. He went to Hargrave right out of there, but then he went to Louisville. I think he's going to be the one to watch. He's in the backcourt with Chris Jones. I think it's going to be pretty good. Marcus Page, as my man said earlier, sometimes when that spotlight isn't on you that well, you look way better than what you really are. So when they actually scout against you and put a 1-3-1 defense on you, or a 2-3 defense, and go from 2-3 to man zone defense, we see how much of a really good player you are. We got Frank Kaminsky out at Wisconsin. He's there with Jim Jackson's son, but can he continue to do what he did last year? And as I said earlier, Tyler Eulis at Kentucky. When you put those big giants with a little guy, sometimes all you gotta do is throw it up.
Game. I know how you feel, brother. I know you're a diehard Carolina supporter.
Bloody blue.
What pod does Tyler Eulis play on? Pod C?
No.
I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of the pod system.
He started 3 or 4 games this year.
But what I am a big fan of is great basketball players. So give me your list of your top players there.
I've got some of the same that he has. I'm going to go with Kaminsky. Some people said he was a lottery pick last year. Came back to a Wisconsin team that is starting 5 seniors. So it's going to be interesting to see if we touched on it earlier, that experience pays off come tournament time.
Okay.
I did 2 on this one. I did the Harrison brothers at Kentucky to see how last year they had played 35, 36 minutes a game, had the green light the whole game. How are they going to buy into Calipari's system of playing 18 minutes a game? And buying into it, does that mean are they going to be happy with it? And when they get on the court, can they get in the offensive rhythm?
BJM.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'm going to take it down to Duke. I have Tyus Jones right now, 9.2 points, 2.5 rebounds, 5 assists a game. I think that's solid. One of my favorites. And I'm also going to take it to the West Coast.
Okay.
I have Oregon Ducks player by the name of Joseph Young.
Good one.
He's a 6'2" senior. He's managed to stay, and I'm all about tradition. If you're in college, play 4 years. I know it sounds crazy, but, he's there this year. He's throwing up 26 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, and 5 assists.
All right. With that being said, I noticed that nobody up here on the panel called out the guy has been predicted to be player of the year.
I've got him on my list.
You didn't mention why.
He's on it. You talking about Okafor?
I'm talking about Okafor.
Well, it's one of those things, just like Harrison Barnes. He was predicted preseason player of the year. I watched all the Duke games so far, and
Thank you, Justin. We appreciate
but
it.
I will say this: I don't know why in the world that one game that they had a 6-7 minute span, he didn't touch the basketball. The guy's shooting 27 of 30 from the. Why would you not give him the basketball? If he did not, at least, he doesn't have to shoot it every time, but why would you not? He's shooting probably 90% from the field. Why would he not touch the basketball every time down there?
Is Okafor a legitimate candidate to be player of the year?
Yeah, he's a legitimate candidate, but I think we all run into walls sometimes. And one guy I think that can manage up with him is the guy that slimmed down last year, and that's Kennedy Meeks. I think that he's going to be, the fact that he slimmed down. I
He
think
looks good. He looks real
Yeah.
good.
It's just going to take time. Usually when you're big, it takes a little time to adjust to the weight of what you're trying to do now. So when he gets used to it, it'll be just in time when they play Duke.
Terrell,
Wait.
you're a big guy. You played high school ball.
Yeah.
Okay. You have. Well, have you really been impressed with Okafor? Honestly. Because I have. I've been
I
impressed.
think if you've never played the big man position, you don't understand. You have to get touches. Like Justin said, it spans up the game where I think it's easy. It's up like 20. They're like 22 points compared to like negative 16 when he doesn't actually touch the ball. So that means even if he touches the ball and he's not actually putting it in the goal, he's making the pass or he's making an assist or he's catching it. So if he doesn't touch, I think being in Duke and Coach K doesn't really push individual player numbers. I think his numbers could be more, but they have some weapons. So he doesn't necessarily have to shoot the ball for them to win.
The one thing I will add, me and Brian touched on this the other day, that we'll have to watch is I think it was the Temple game where he got tired. After about 10 minutes, he wasn't even making it up and down the court. And we discussed this the other day, is that just the length of one college season is really not enough to get in shape physically.
Yeah.
Conditioning wise, you brought up Kennedy Meeks. Kennedy Meeks started this, last year. He started eating, started working out. So, is he going to be able to play just 20 minutes a game? Or if he plays 30 minutes a game, is he going to be a defensive liability?
Jessica, can I ask you a question? I was watching, I think it was Kentucky or Kansas or the Kansas coach. He said that his players got tired when they was playing Kentucky. I don't know. I think it was it. What's going on when these guys are not getting conditioned? What is the problem?
I think what he brought up was a great point. When you have almost every player on your team's over 6'6", 6'7",
Right.
every shot you get off is a struggle.
Right.
That Kansas team, which was ranked 5, only scored 40 points. So it wears you out if you have to. Every shot you take is a struggle.
Right.
It just wears you out. They keep throwing bodies and bodies and bodies at you.
What is it, Herb?
And then you gotta look at. You guys have a great point. You gotta look at substitution. When one coach is substituting one here, 2 people here, one person there, but then another coach is going 5 and 5. 5 and 5.
To be able to bring in 5 players off the bench, and each one of these 5 players can put it in the goal. I don't remember the last time we've seen this. Cause anybody has any? I don't remember.
But there are teams right now that could do the same. Duke could obviously run another squad with 5 people. Carolina could do the same. So there are teams that could do that. But I think the question is going to be: is that going to win a national championship? And are the players, like I said, the Harrison twins were first-round draft picks last year. They came back to make themselves lottery picks.
Okay. Well, with that being said, you guys have already set the stage for for your players that you feel as though are standouts this year. We've already been through the top 25. Herb, I think what I want to know now is, give me 4 teams that, hey, at the end of the year, they're going to be battling out in the Final Four.
Number 1, Kentucky. I think that they have the depth that can push them there. Duke can be there. Wisconsin can be there. And you can't leave out my Syracuse Orange, man. That's how I'm gonna round that out about them.
Okay. Well, how about you, Game?
I'm gonna go with sort of. I got Kentucky, UNC, Duke, and Wisconsin.
Really?
That's my Final Four.
Interesting. Terrell, you want to chime in on that?
Duke, Carolina, Wisconsin, Kentucky.
Now, my thing is this. I know everybody's big on Kentucky. Okay.
It's not that I'm big on it. I take things. I take things for what I see. You know, from what I see, I don't. You know, even if I'm a fan of a program or a fan of a coach or whatever, I'm very realistic. You know, and I do not see anybody stopping those Giants, man.
But the difference, I think we discussed this. It's not a best out of 7.
Right.
It is a
one game.
So all it takes is
One
one
game.
team to be hot and them to be not.
Okay.
Or, you know, and they can lose.
With you saying that, Herb, is there a team out there that's under the radar that you feel as though can cause problems for these big boys?
Louisville. Because as he said, you know, when your guard plays really good, sometimes, you know, Tyler Hughes is only 5'9". Chris Jones is about 5'11". Terry Rozier is about 6'3". I think that they can, and they have, the big men that Louisville have, they're warriors. They're dogs. They're not just going to get pushed around, they're going to push you back. So I think that they can fight Carolina. Not today.
Montrezl Harrell was one. I watched him play the other night. And he had 31 points, 15
He's a
rebounds,
Right.
and he did not stop the
He's a man
whole
of all worlds.
game. And I mean, he's not going to be afraid. And I think that's the main thing. When you play those guys, you can't be afraid of them. That's the main thing.
Terrell, is there a team that you feel as though is a sleeper?
I think March Madness is always about the Cinderella teams, and you know, I think that's what makes it the best. I think March Madness is better than the Super Bowl. It's better than the World Series. So I'll go with Gonzaga or VCU or one of these. They're going to. It happens every year.
Toledo Rockets.
Yeah, they're going. You gotta have. It's crazy. You're gonna have one of those teams every year that does what they do. So for us not to pick one of those teams, it is crazy. But I mean, we just taking it for what I've seen now.
Game, give me a sleeper.
Well, last year, I mean, we saw this happen. Wichita State. Nobody's mentioned them. They really were set in a trap bracket, I think, last year because they had a second-round matchup with the Kentucky team that was preseason number 1. So I think that was really a trap game for them. And they don't get a lot of coverage because of the conference they're in. But they have seniors, and I think when it comes time to those tournament games, senior play is huge. So I'm gonna go out on them and say Wichita State.
What I want to do right now is I'm gonna go down the line on the panel. Just simply one word. Tell me who's cutting down the nets. Justin, tell me.
I'm gonna go with Kentucky. I gotta say Kentucky.
Herb.
Duke.
DJM.
Devils.
Wow, interesting. I'll keep my opinion to myself.
Oh no, you can't do that, man. Hey, excuse me, have you noticed that he hasn't made any of the Final Four picks or anything?
Hey.
I think it's
Yeah,
you have to give us one team. You cannot not. You have to give us one.
Not
Because at
your favorite.
the end of the year, I don't want you to say, "Oh, I was doing that the whole time." We have footage, so you see it.
Hey, at the end of the day, I'm a Duke fan. But I feel like Carolina does have the talent, Roy does have the horses to get to the championship game. Whether that happens or not is yet to be seen. But I feel like Carolina does have an opportunity to cut down the nets. Right here, folks, is what we call our parting shots. It's the end of the show. And what I would like to do is give my panel a chance to voice their opinion and get whatever's on their mind off their chest. We'll start with you, Herb.
Every show I'm going to throw out a fact. And that's how I'm going to start it off, and that's how I'm going to end it. Michael Jordan, back in 1989, in the month of April, he had 10 and in 11 games, he had 10 triple-doubles. In the only game that he didn't have a triple-double, he still had 40.7 rebounds and 11 assists. And you say LeBron compares to him?
Wow, interesting. Game, what about yourself?
I'm going to take it to a very controversial issue, and North Carolina right now. It pains me to die. But the academic scandal at Carolina. I told somebody this the other day, and I believe Roy Williams knew about the program when he came. Hold on. When he came to Carolina and he started telling his players to remove themselves from that program. That's what I firmly believe.
Wow.
That's the first time.
DJ M.
LeBron James. You can go back to Miami if you want to. This Cleveland Cavalier team is horrible. LeBron James is playing okay basketball. Kyrie Irving is not the point guard that I would pick to lead my team. And Kevin Love is overrated, like I said on this show last year. Brian.
For myself, I'm going to take a different road. November is National Diabetes Month. All right? 30 million people in the U.S., kids and adults, are being diagnosed with diabetes. So for me, guys, with Thanksgiving being around the corner, I'm just going to ask you guys, hey, don't eat that extra piece of turkey.
Drink lots of dew.
Don't eat all those chitlins, okay? Get your stomach full, go outside, take a walk. Hey, shoot some hoops.
That's a good idea.
DJ Amp, once again. Close of the show, we got to send a special shout out to DJ 3AM, our camera guy and videographer. I know we don't give you a lot of press, bro, but hey, we love you here on the show, bro. And without you, this wouldn't be possible.
We make it work, man.
Make it work. DJ Amp, take us home, brother.
Before I go, make sure you come see my Dragons destroy whoever we play this Saturday. 5 through 6 year old YMCA. Shout out to Baby Ty, my son, the future leader of America.
What's the record?
Right now we're 0-0. We start our first game this week. But you don't want to play us. You definitely don't want to play us. And to all the parents, I'm sorry for what we did to y'all last year, but it's going to happen again this year. Let's go.
DJ Amp, what are you doing, man?
Is the TV on? Somebody got it on me. Is it on? Is the TV on? If not, I can sing. Oh, okay. This is why this show is so great. We make mistakes, baby. Let's go.
Oh, we gotta get me and you. Come on.
Hey, shout out to my boy DJ 3AM, baby. Facebook page, Live with the Sports Guys. Any questions, any comments, you can send Herb your pictures, ladies. The rest of us are married, okay?
I got a good game of the week. Football.
Hey, I think that show was pretty
You think it was good?
Eagles versus the Titans.